Hi, I'm LadyJenevia. Today's video is a review of the new Netflix film, The Wonder, starring Florence Pugh. This one was an experience to watch. I went in without seeing a trailer, and it's based on a book which I have not read, so I'm going to first give smaller feedback for the people who want as few spoilers as possible about how the story escalates and what gets revealed, and then I will get into a little bit more detail, which means some spoilers. Normally, I am pretty stubborn about keeping spoilers to myself, but I figure that since this is based on a book, I have a bit more leeway to share more, even if the film has not had its wider release just yet. It had a limited theatrical release already anyway, so we are clearly operating in a gray area. The Wonder is set in 1862, 13 years after the Great Famine. An English Nightingale nurse, Lib Wright, is called to the Irish Midlands by a devout community to conduct a 15-day examination over one of their own. Anna O'Donnell is an 11-year-old girl who claims not to have eaten for 4 months, surviving miraculously on quote-unquote manna from heaven. As Anna's health rapidly deteriorates, Lib is determined to unearth the truth, challenging the faith of a community that would prefer to stay believing. The film opens with a confusing opening. We see a movie set, as in we are inside a studio where sets are built to be filmed on, and there is this narrator telling you, the audience, that you're about to watch a film called The Wonder, and that the characters in it believe this story, or that they believe in the story. Yeah, it's kind of jarring. You can't help but wonder, did I get lost? What is happening? And they also break the fourth wall in the middle of the film, and they end the film with a returning shot to that studio. I'm going to be honest, and you probably already guessed this by my tone, I don't particularly care for this creative choice. It feels unnecessary and like something you would do because you're worried that the themes of the film will be too esoteric for a wider audience to understand, but then you just end up coming across as jarringly pretentious instead. The film seems to be addressing how religious extremism can be abusive and self-destructive, and I don't think that concept is far removed enough from the modern world to require this particular narrative device begging your audience to buy into the story. If you tell your story effectively, you would not need to ask the audience to believe in it. If you turn a movie on, you are already entering that space with the expectation that you will visit the world of that film. The medium speaks for itself. In watching this film, I couldn't help but wonder a bit about the socio-political subtext of the film. At face value, it seems to be talking about religious extremism, but after how massively viral the people of Ireland went online after the Queen died, I couldn't help but have some questions about the optics of having an English nurse go to Ireland right after the Great Famine in a story where the Irish people are the ones who are largely painted out to be religious extremists, but I myself am not Irish, so I didn't necessarily want to overspeak on this issue. And then when I went to log the film on Letterboxd, it took all of 5 seconds to find that somebody else already had commented on this. The review read, "This English nurse arrives and gives these backward Irish bumpkins a morality lesson. Come on. I understand my nation's history, wherein, on countless occasions, religiosity was prioritized above real human lives, but this is not handled with the deftest touch. So I guess my wariness was warranted? But the author of the book is Irish, so I really don't know for sure. There is a part in this film, though, where Nurse Lib is trying to be sensible about helping to save someone's life, but she has multiple Irish people refusing to take her medical advice seriously, and they reiterate her being English as a reason to disregard what she says. Why would you hire her to come to Ireland if you weren't going to listen to her? Right? It's a sensible question posed in response to nonsensical behavior of these characters. However, the film is taking place right after the Great Famine. Therefore, it would be, in my opinion, completely reasonable for some Irish people to be a bit wary of English people coming into their home. That famine was not something that happened just because there wasn't enough food. There was plenty of food being produced on Irish land, and it was being exported out by English landowners of that Irish land, exported back to England while Irish people were starving. If I were to try to do a video unpacking historical violence by the English monarchy and government against Ireland, I would be here all day. And I'm not bringing any of this up because I think it ruins the film. I'm just saying that at times the messaging came across odd to me as a viewer. Unsurprisingly, the star of the film is, of course, Florence Pugh. Anyone who has seen her act in a leading role before knows that she can deliver exactly what needs to be delivered. You know that things are going down as soon as she starts to do the face. You know, the one where her mouth turns down at the sides. Yeah, that one. The film overall is very atmospheric. The score is very unsettling. And this is by no means a comfortable film to watch. It delves into very heavy topics, and the film was well done on a technical level, but it isn't one that I would necessarily want to rewatch. It's the type of film that you would expect to be in the running for award shows because it meets a lot of the criteria you see in the ones that tend to be nominated. It is artistic in its presentation, it's well acted, it's a period piece, and it gives the audience an excuse to ruminate on some of the worst tendencies of humankind. The pacing for the first hour and 20 or hour and 30 minutes is very slow. It took me a while to get acclimated to what exactly the film was doing, how it was presenting information, because I couldn't quite get a read on what they were trying to do or what they were trying to say, but once you get into the last 30 or 40 minutes, that's when things ramp up and you realize, oh, this is what I came to see. This is what they're going for. Essentially, there is a buildup over the first 2/3 or so of the film where Nurse Lib is trying to figure out what is going on with this young girl, Anna. How is she still alive if she has not been eating for months? Is this story going to do something religiously fantastical or supernatural? Is she hiding food in her room? Is this whole thing a dream sequence someone is having while they are locked up in an asylum? What is the truth? So once you get to that point of knowing what the story is doing, what it's really about, the pacing ramps up and it's a lot more dramatic and in general impactful as a story. It does get into some heavier topics, but I think they handled those topics with enough care that it was not a traumatizing watch for me. In general, I would recommend the film to anyone who loves a dramatic thriller period piece, with the understanding that they are going to have to sit through a very slow burn and slow build-up to the more thrilling part of the story. Also, of course, if you are a Florence Pugh fan, you all suffered through Don't Worry Darling, so compared to that, this is a much better option between the two in regards to a storytelling level. But there are some difficult topics that I'm going to talk a little bit more about, but this is when we are foraying into the world of some spoilers, not with all of the specifics, but I just want to make sure that I offer some general warnings about the content because the subject matter gets heavy, and if you don't want those topics to be mentioned, then this might not be the film for you to watch. So again, this is yet another warning to click off if you don't want any type of reveal for what comes in the later portions of the story. Given the fact that this story is largely centered on a young girl who is excessively fasting, if you have any types of issues with being able to watch stories containing ED content, this is probably not the film for you. It starts off slow, but the further you get into the story, things escalate and become far more intense surrounding that subject matter, and I would hate for someone to accidentally stumble into watching this just because they like Florence Pugh and accidentally suffer some sort of personal setback in your recovery just because nobody else bothered to warn you. The story also ventures into matters regarding abuse, and that mistreatment is intertwined with religious extremism. The story also includes the topic of abuse. You do not see anything happen and you do not hear anything happen. The only way that it is present in the story is someone sharing verbally about something they experienced. It is not explained in detail whatsoever, but that is a heavy topic, and if you have a heavy sensitivity about that subject matter, it is perfectly valid to want to put this particular film to the side, and maybe you will be able to come back at it at a different point in time. Overall, I ended up rating the film 3.5 out of 5 stars. On a technical level, it is perfectly competent in its filmmaking with the cinematography, the acting, the costumes, the production design, the scoring, and so on and so forth. My only real knocks against the film were some of the storytelling choices, like the opening and closing, which I already mentioned. I just didn't like that part of it. And the slower pacing lasting as long as it did before the reveal, it did prove to be a bit of a challenge to stay in there and keep my concentration on what exactly it was that I was watching. If I had not already committed to doing a review of the film, there is that possibility that if I was just a viewer watching it on Netflix when it first released, I might have clicked off before it got to all of the more interesting and dramatic and fast-paced stuff that develops in the latter portion of the film. But like I said, it is by no means a bad film. I would imagine a lot of the reason people will be tuning in will be because of Florence Pugh, and if that's your reason, then I don't think you will be disappointed. I don't think she's typically in the habit of disappointing the people who enjoy her acting. So that's my feedback. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My next review will be about another Netflix film, but this time a holiday rom-com, which is exactly the pick-me-up I need after watching 2 hours of religious trauma. See you in the next one. Bye.